what I want to do is read we didn't read last week's readings. I want to read half of it. And then we'll go further. You'll know when I stop because I'll stop. Then we'll see where we go from there. But we're going to be on Matthew 19:16. Now behold, one came and said to him, "Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life?" So he said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is God. But if you want to enter into life, keep the commandments." He said to him, "Which ones?" Jesus said, "You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself." The young man said to him, "All these things I have kept from my youth. What do I still lack?" Jesus said to him, "If you want to be perfect, go sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me." But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Assuredly I say to you that it is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." When his disciples heard it, they were greatly astonished, saying, "Who then can be saved?" But Jesus looked at them and said to them, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Then Peter answered and said to him, "See, we have left all and followed you. Therefore, what shall we have?" So Jesus said to them, "Assuredly I say to you, that in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. Now when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the 3rd hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you." So they went. Again he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour and did likewise. And about the 11th hour he went out and found others standing idle, and said to them, "Why have you been standing here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right you will receive." So when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, "Call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first." And when those who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more, and they likewise received each a denarius. And when they had received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, "These last men have worked only 1 hour, and you made them equal to us, who have borne the burden and the heat of the day." But he answered one of them and said, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what is yours and go your way. I wish to give to this last person the same as to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is your eye evil because I am good?" So the last will be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. Now Jesus, going up to Jerusalem, took the 12 disciples aside on the road and said to them, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles to mock and to scourge and to crucify. And the third day he will rise again." And I'll leave you guys with that for a minute. Okay, I think we'll start. First, I want to say something kind of funny. When I was really new and crazy and couldn't look people in the eye or talk, melting down every couple of days, still in fistfights. And I heard many of the last will be first. I always felt great about it. I was like, great, maybe I could be first. And now that I'm teaching and leading, I think, oh, maybe the first will be last. And I'll say more about that piece, but the one I wanted to talk about first is Jesus, again now, predicting his death and resurrection. And I've said it so many times in this gospel, but you can't underestimate how radically disappointing, shocking, and scandalous that would be to Jesus' disciples. They're Jews of the day, and they're certain that when the Messiah comes, they will be set up with political, religious power, which will be one thing. And they'll be, ruling over humanity. The Jews are the chosen people. They will be given great power. Yes, they've been rejected by humanity. They've been, harmed by humanity. They've been imprisoned by the Egyptians. They've been conquered by the Romans. But when the Messiah, and this is their sense of justice, their sense of making sense of it all, of what's happened to them. And when the Messiah comes, we will be given great power. This is what they think is going to happen. So you have to keep that in mind, and they really believed it. This isn't the age we live in now where it's hard to get people to believe things like this that are true, religious things. These people believed it. And so when Jesus starts saying, "I'm going to be killed, and I'll be dead for 3 days, and I'll rise again," none of this makes any sense to them. They're waiting for him to call arms and lead an army with angels coming down from heaven to take over. This is what they're thinking. I can't remember who it is, but you remember in Acts, one of the disciples says, "Do you want us to call down fire from heaven and burn them?" Do you want us to do that? And he's like, no. They're still working on letting go of their expectations. And I don't think we're very different. I think we also have the wrong, just thinking of my friend, Scotty. I admire him and I look up to him, and I think he's in some ways a great human being. In some ways, I think a really great person. And he spends 3 hours a day every morning in prayer, meditation, before he works a hard labor job all day, his own business. And, he cuts 8-9 hour days, comes home, tired and beaten, and gets up at 4 a.m. and does another 3 hours every morning, all year round. He's right there for his prayer. And one of the things he says a lot, or used to say a lot more, and that I've heard many of us say, is this is not what I thought it would be. I thought it would make me smarter, better, faster, stronger, more popular. I thought this was, it's what you have to think it's what the disciples thought. We have our own version of it, what we thought it would mean. And just a humorous story. I don't know if it's true or not, but back in the, way back in the day, I heard someone reached enlightenment and they said no one noticed. Or cared. I mean, it just, the world doesn't care, man. They don't care. What are you doing that's impressive? How have you, sculpted yourself in some way to be something important? This is what the world cares about. It's the same thing the Jews, they had the same wrong expectations, and many people in here have said, this is not what I thought it would look like. God's making you into something that matters, but the world is not in a position to reward that very often. It will reward your stability. It will reward that you can show up when you say you'll show up. There's a bunch of things it will help with. It will. It will reward you in some ways, for sure. But it's just, the more on fire you get, it's not like you're going to get more popular because of that. That's not how it's going to work. It's not how it looks. You'll dress more ordinary. You'll be more ordinary. You won't chase things you chase, and everyone will say, what are you chasing? And I'm not chasing anything. And then they'll think you're lazy. They won't get it. So this is what the Jews were going through with Jesus. Like, their hero, and he's going to die, and that's just a scandal. But it's such a huge digression, because I've been really wanting to get to these sections because we have some newer people, and then I didn't get any sleep, and we'll see, my daughter's sick again. She's not in school. We're up taking care of her. She was spitting on me. She likes to talk really sloppy for fun, humorously, and then it gets little spits on you. She's not the way you see her. Just us at home, it's a little more obnoxious. And so all day, right, she's in a particularly playful mood that way. She's doing this stuff. And then that night she gets sick. So that's in my eyes. It's it's over. It's every time too. So, but the thing about this section, man, is now we're talking about salvation. Now we're talking about salvation. And salvation is a one-off. There is no suitable comparison in any other religious traditions for this. It doesn't exist. And they didn't have, our language to discuss it is insufficient. So, they're doing their best in the scripture to say Jesus pays the debt for our sin, right? Jesus incurs the punishment, the wrath of God for us. He takes our punishment upon himself to save us. But we, as modern people, that doesn't quite resonate. But does there have to be a punishment? Or, and how can Jesus take it? And one time I was talking to a Hindu guru, and he said, we were talking about Christianity, and he said, the language they didn't have back then that would have changed everything is the word energy. That's a very important word, he said, and they didn't have it, and he's right. But energy work doesn't quite get at it either. There just isn't quite the right language to describe what Jesus did. So we're left to just hear what Scripture says, and it says that Jesus took all of our sin on himself, and he died with it. And then he rose from the dead and ascended into heaven. And he did that somehow while holding all of us in some way in his soul, so that it happened to us because it happened to him. That's salvation. And that your karma, your sin, sin and karma they're the same thing. There's debt for sin, there's debt for karma. It's the same teaching. Somehow Jesus took it on himself. So that your karma, your sin, you have to mourn and you have to let God change your heart and mind, and you walk through it, but there's something he took and changed. And it's something very real, and it's something that we can't quite grasp, and we don't still yet have language for. And because it goes against the way the world thinks. It goes against the way, especially maybe in the West, we think of kind of earning it yourself and being a self-made person. And we have all these myths around this sort of like all the heroes in the movies I watched as a kid, that the one cop, the one guy, everyone else is an idiot, but this one guy comes in and he's just taking care of business, man. And these were our heroes. Just I can do it. I'm the one that can do it all. And none of that plugs into this, man. It just doesn't plug in. We're supposed to receive it. It's a free gift. We didn't earn it. All these things that don't quite make sense. And I'm already off my notes, so we'll just see how it goes. But so that leads us to mystery. You've got a couple ways you can go with Christianity or any religion when you hit mystery. When you hit the fact that they're telling us something real happened, but they just can't say it well. They're telling you it's the thing. It's the game changer for humanity and for your soul. For your soul's trajectory forever is radically changed because of this thing. But they can't tell you exactly why or how. And they give you their best language they can come up with, but they're shooting in the dark. But this is the theologians I've read say, look, they're shooting in the dark here, trying to find a way, some kind of analogy to explain it. But just don't think that analogy is perfect, because there's no way. So you got a couple ways you can go. You can recognize mystery and embrace it. Or you can become fundamentalist and say the black and white words is exactly what it means. And religion that becomes black and white gets increasingly shut off from the power of God instead of increasingly open to it. And it's because of the way mystery functions. Mystery, you're thinking of the Trinity, because I've had people call just spinning out about the Trinity like they just don't get it. And I think, well, duh. Like, of course you don't get it. But they got to wrestle with that, But mystery says, look, there's three persons and there's one God and one nature, and there's only one God, but there's three persons. They're not dividing the Godhead up. They're all fully God. When one acts, they all act, but they're separate. I mean, you don't get it. You can't fully get that. You can't. So that's mystery. They're telling you something that the more you think about it, the more you come out with question. Okay? If you operate by the rules of this world, you become frustrated by this. And you discard it. Or you get fundamentalist and just start saying, this is exactly what they mean. It's exactly what it is. It's plain text. And you have it all figured out. And those don't leave you open to power. That neither of those, trying to think of a state of being, okay? What is a Christian's state of being? And there's lots of different ways and different aspects to describe, but in this case, we're describing the mind and heart that has been pointed in the direction of the Godhead, or pointed in the direction of salvation, been given some kind of rough outline of how that sort of happens, that says, okay, I accept this is the way to go. I accept, yes, I should look to the Trinity or look to Christ or look to Mary. Yes, I accept I should look here. I will look here. But who doesn't need to understand it perfectly, who doesn't need to master it intellectually, and who doesn't surrender to the temptation of frustration, but who just says, I've been pointed in the right direction and I open myself to this. And that mystery, that inability to fully explain it, if you pay attention, it leaves your mind open in a way that you can't get it open in another way. If you just pay attention, I've spent a lot of time noticing these states. Like, they teach it this way, why? What does it do to me? If I practice the system this way, how does it affect my consciousness? And what it does is it leaves my heart and my mind open to God, pointing that satellite dish in the best possible direction to receive it. And that's what it does. That's the function of mystery. And it should be stated also that you won't get it fully in heaven either. It's not just an accident. It's not just on account of sin. It's not just on account of our limitations. God is infinitely transcended. You're never going to peg that with computer. You may lose computer and experience it in ecstasy. Swim in it, become one with it, merge with it, flow with it. But if you drop back down into computer, you still won't be able to say it. It might bug you more when you come back down in, trying to tell someone something you cannot say. You cannot do it justice. So these predictions, it's the meat of everything. Jesus is, here's notes. The mystery of the incarnation. That God, infinite transcendent God, became a human being. That's a mystery. And it points you in the right direction to receive some things. Some things that you won't get otherwise. In a sea of energies, you just won't pick up on that thing that the incarnation is trying to point you at. That resonance, that frequency. You'll miss it. But God incarnated, so then incarnation. Yes. Then you think about that. You contemplate that. You're pointed in the right direction. You accept it. And then you use that to absorb it. And there's power there. There's power there. It's the reason I'm so grounded. No one laugh. For me, for this vehicle, no ground whatsoever. Might as well just be smoking pot, just off, I don't know, on psychedelic somewhere. My natural state of being is not rooted, and yet I'm so deeply rooted. Why? Incarnation. Incarnation. God became a physical being. Think about that for a while and tell me you don't find root. Perfect root. Perfect root. He lived his life and taught. There's this power. A lived life. A human being lived a perfect life. And what does that mean for the rest of us? What is that? How does that rub off? Then he died on the cross, the great mystery, really, the central mystery, his death on a cross. Scandal, the opposite of our views of power. God's ultimate victory, death on a cross. That doesn't quite compute, right? But if you meditate on it and go beyond the thoughts, the thoughts point you the right direction, but if you absorb the power of that, then there's power. There's power there. Real power. power of dying to self. Then his resurrection, the mystery of his resurrection and his ascension into heaven, where he took his body with him. Why? What does that mean? What does that mean for us? So Jesus is now, the third or fourth time he's dropping these hints on them. He's telling them these things so that when he does it all, they remember they'll know, that was not an accident. This guy told us from the beginning this was going to happen. We just didn't believe him because we were waiting for power. But he shows us this other kind of power. This hidden power the world doesn't see and can't appreciate. It's bigger, faster, louder, stronger. That's the world. But that's not the way God operates. Something else. So these mysteries, if a religion is mature enough to accept mystery, to say we don't know. We know this about it, but there's a point at which we don't know. If they'll let you have mystery instead of have black and white certainty, then you're open to power, which is the full purpose of it all, to open us to power. Just let me check a couple things so I don't want to miss anything important. I think I didn't say it well, so I can't stress enough how much of a state of being embracing mystery puts you in. People are tempted to just, I don't care about it, I don't get it, so I push it away, or try to master it and get frustrated. You hold it, and you embrace that mystery, and that leads to this openness, a new kind of openness. It's important. It's a big part of, like, why didn't Jesus just say all of it as more plainly? Why? There's reasons. Okay, last thing. Other sort of section. So Jesus' disciples are like, hey man, I give my whole house. I give my career, my house. I gave it all up. I'm right here with you. What do I get? And they're clearly, why does Jesus then give this parable about everyone's getting the same and you worked harder, but be careful, you might be last. If you're like, why does he do that? It's because they're getting like, what am I going to have? And, John and the other one in the next section are like, can I be at your right and left hand? We want to be your main ones in heaven. And maybe there's 12, but we want to be right and left of you. And he's just going, my God, what is going on? And then you think, well, so Jesus says many of the first will be last and the last will be first. Over just a little thought like that, why should that be so damaging? Why should a little thought like that be so damaging to the kingdom of heaven? Why? Well, I think it's because of the infinite fullness of heaven. This is one of those things where I've been in there so many times and I can't say it. And every time I get done saying it, I think it's so dumb. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. But there's this flow of power from God that goes through everything. It shines on everything. And it is so powerful and potent and bright and beautiful and soft. It's infinite everything. Everything you can imagine, it's shining it in you. And everyone is basking in it, and it is just incredible. And then that's just like, that's the thing, that's the engine, that's the source of all of heaven. That's the root of heaven. everybody is just receiving to the fullness of their engine's capacity, the infinity of God. Everyone just filled with it, basking in it, in this infinite light and darkness and every other. It's trippy. It's not what you think. It's everything. And then every one of those people and puppies and little butterflies and flowers that are doing that, rocks, everything that's receiving it so infinitely. Then there. So you've already got this infinity of infinity. Just it's infinite love and all life. And then every creature is sort of bleep, just like bleep. All this light's in there, and then they're just saying their little thing, like the frog just grrr, grrr, and crickets are crick, crick, crick. But it's like it's God's light getting turned into this stuff. And this is like what it's like in heaven. Everything is shining infinitely in that light, being shined on, and then it's turning into little Daniel stuff, and Jill stuff, and Raya stuff, and so there's this other beauty. There's this beauty of the infinite everything, but then there's this beauty of all the particular creations of that being, and they're all taking it and shining that in. And they're shining that out, and everybody loves everyone. Everybody's fully in love with what Raya is shining on them, and they're just basking in the beauty of it. So then they're taking that in and God in and shining that, and that affects them the way they shine. And everyone is exchanging and communicating and sharing, being with everyone else, all in God's infinite love. And it's no joke. It's so powerful and beautiful. It's color and sound and there's freaking angels literally singing choruses forever. Thousands of them. Really. It's like they're really doing that. It's like, musicians that's their deal. And then so you got these, you're just basking in creak, 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 and then angel voices, and it's all happening sort of unplanned, but all synchronistically with each other, and it's an endless freaking movement of infinite beauty. That's heaven. So then just imagine one of those beings who's infinitely receiving the beauty from God, receiving the beauty from all creatures that it's partaking in, shining its thing out. If it says, I want more than them. Where's the love? Gone. So now they're not receiving God. They're not receiving them, and they can't shine who they are, because now they're lying now. That's now a sin. You can see now how it's like, I just wish I had a little more than everyone. No big deal from our dead view of the world. We still don't like it. We still think, but everyone secretly wants more anyway. And, the whole mess of it. So crazy. But think of what it does to heaven. Think of what it does to that endless beauty. It's a total wreck. It train wrecks the whole thing. So Jesus isn't being mean, when he says, you better watch out, you might be last. You might be least. He's seeing it. He's seeing it. He's seeing what's offered, and he's seeing what's refused. He's seeing what's taken. He's seeing what's shared. He's seeing reality. He's seeing what it's all for and what it's all about. So that's why first and last and first. And that's why we have to die to all that and come to this other kind of life. And even in our fallen state, you can see the direct effects It's like if you come in here and you have all those motives and you're like, man, God, please don't let me be so full of garbage. Then you're kind of a light bringer in here, you know? It's like God's like, right on, God gotcha. Grace this out. But if you're really holding those motives for real, it starts to kill the beauty. It starts to wreck the beauty. It starts to limit the possibilities. What can happen, of the good that can happen. Because it stops all that flow. It just stops all that flow. There probably wouldn't be any disease if we all were fully in that. Most suffering probably wouldn't exist. It's infinite love and power and life energy flowing from everyone to everyone. Fully shared, fully participated in, fully appreciated, selflessly given. Most of our problems would disappear, I think. So that's why, why didn't Jesus start a political movement to fix that problem in that moment in time? And Jesus is saying, look, I have the solution to all problems. Not this particular problem. All problems. He's saying, I have the solution to all human suffering. Let's do that.